So Kofi, good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Brown University and to Africana Studies. And it's a great pleasure to have you here and you and Rejani. And so I thought it would be good for us to have a little conversation.
Okay, that's good for me to be first at Brown University, considering that Brown University holds studies about our diaspora.
Yes.
And I'm talking with somebody from Africa, my brother from Africa, inside of one of the most important universities in the United States. So for me, it's extremely a motive of being proud, being here and being with you.
Oh, thank you very much. I feel the same way because, I think that it's lucky that we can have you to visit us, and especially more so, I think it's lucky that we can have this conversation. So what I want to do with this conversation, first I'm just going to say a few things about you so that the people watching will know.
Okay.
This is, we call him Kofi. Kofi in Ghana means somebody who was born on Friday. That was not his originally given name, but this is the name we've given him. So I call him Onua Kofi, which means Brother Kofi. So, brother, here we are. He is an extraordinary person from Brazil, not just from Brazil, but from the southern part of Brazil,
Yes, sir.
where people don't even think there are many people of African descent, but has a very special history.
Yes.
And what I wanted us to do, Kofi, this morning is for you to reflect a bit on how you became involved with Africa. Because you've been going to Africa now for more than 40 years. And it's very important, not just for me, but for the students to be able to understand how you got into this, process. And I know some of it, but if you don't mind, if you could just say a few things, about how you first became interested and how you first got there. And I have something also to show you, which is going to be a surprise for you. Look at that.
Ok, relatório de viagem à África. Report from a trip
Yeah,
to
from
Africa.
the Rio Grande do Sul
Rio Grande do Sul
legislature. Yeah.
legislative that I
You
organized it.
I know that. See, Vishnu gave me this many
Vishnu
years
gave it
ago.
to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm returning it to you because now I have a copy.
Oh, it's a proud. I'm proud of it.
Okay, there you are. So if you
Okay.
could tell us a little bit about your
Yes.
background and
Yes.
how you got into the African.
I am son of a former public servant. My father was born in 1898. So meaning that he was born something about only 10 years after
Abolition.
And he was able to get a small job as a public servant. And as such, he married, and he had 6 children, and 2 of them, I am one, 2 of them became lawyers. But my father, he never spoke about slavery as such, but he was always talking to me, time to time, as a boy that I was. He was talking to me about Gold Coast. Gold Coast. I don't know properly why, but the fact is that I grown up and I have a kind of vocation for being journalist. When I was very, very young, in my street, my zone, where it is my street, the street where I was born, there was a football club. And I was the one who did the report in a mural about the things of my football club. Later on, when I was at the high school, there was a journal of the high school association. And then I started to cooperate with it. Then, in this moment, I start to see, to try to understand some things that my father was saying about Gold Coast. And then when I was already nearly becoming let's say, I was nearly becoming the end of teenager. I was invited, or I presented myself, this is not important, to work as a fresh reporter in the national magazine, not magazine, newspaper, that was to be established in my city, Última Hora. It was a wide national newspaper, and then they were starting to open a branch in Porto Alegre. I was hired. And then, more than what I started it was more or less the time of the independence of Ghana, the fight of Lumumba, things like that. And then I start to interview people and put in the newspaper. And then years moving, at the same time I went to the School of Law. And then I was in Brazil, the university, as you well know, they are not boarding. So right. I was working apart,
going to school
and going to school at the same time. So I was working the newspapers, more than one. I changed, and then to the School of Law, where I graduated at the Federal University of my state. Then, being at the university, or being at the university and as a journalist, I was assigned to cover the politics, where I met Dr. Carlos Santos.
Okay. I see.
So, Dr. Carlos Santos, I was a very young, and there was a big difference between he and me.
Age-wise, yes.
So he took me as a kind of, he was a kind of stepfather for me. He was very interested in my job, what I was doing, helping me. So I became very close of him. And then Dr. Carlos Santos, who has he himself a very interesting experience, more than mine, of course. He was in 1935. There was a political experience in Brazil in which class leaders of unions will be appointed to be representatives in the capital of the state.
I see.
And then Mr. Carlos Santos was sent as representative from his hometown, Rio Grande, to Porto Alegre.
Okay.
Coincidentally, just coincidentally, was the year I was born. Just coincidentally, I don't know nothing about it.
But it's interesting.
Interesting.
Yes.
So, Dr. Carlos Santos, later on, when I was a journalist covering politics, and I met him, he transformed me in as a kind of son. And then when he was elected to be the chairman of the Legislative House, the first black to be chairman of the Legislative House of my state, that is an European state. This is very important. Rio Grande do Sul, differently from Bahia, for example, or Maranhão, or Sergipe. My state is European majority. In majority, it is a European state. And he was elected, he was chosen to be the chairman of the Legislative House.
So that's a very interesting choice at that time.
Very, very interesting, because we are speaking about 1967. So it seems, it may give the wrong impression that it's a long time, but no, it's near from 1888. So it's not even a century.
Right, yeah.
And he became the chairman of the House, and invited me, and of course I accepted, to be his chief of staff. And then, being chief of staff, I was able to talk to him, to see, to connect somehow with the new independent countries of Africa through the ambassadors in Rio de Janeiro, not yet in Brazil.
Yes.
So the first one was from your country. It was Mr. Yao Banfu
Texan. Yes, okay.
So
He was a very young ambassador at that time.
Excuse me. The gift I'm giving to you today is a full report of his first visit to Carlos Santos. It's a full visit of in my state, the first African ambassador
to. Wow.
At this time, it happened something very, very interesting. It was, if you remember, at this time, Portugal was, let's put differently, Angola, Mozambique, Cape Verde, and others were still Portuguese colonies, but fighting against Portugal. And then, since Dr. Carlos Santos was a very important person, the government of Portugal invited him and myself to go to Angola.
Oh, so they wanted to make propaganda use of that. Okay,
yes,
all right. Okay.
That's it. But then your ambassador, Mr. Clarkson, and then the ambassador of Senegal, Mr. Senghor, they came to South to push Mr. Carlos Santos, don't go. And our trip never occurred.
That's a very interesting development, because just imagine, for Portugal, they would have you and Mr. Santos. It would be a propaganda victory.
Big propaganda, yes. So we didn't come there. So up till now, I'm giving to you briefly how I reached to that point, of the connection with Africa through the ambassador of Ghana, Mr. Turkson. Then afterwards, some years after, 1974, Brazil was looking for Africa.
Yes.
And then there was a gentleman in São Paulo that you knew him, Mr. Adalberto Camargo.
Oh yes, indeed.
He was even a representative.
Yes.
Mr. Adalberto Camargo was appointed by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Itamaraty, to organize the Brazilian participation to the first trade fair of Brazil in Africa. And then Mr. Camargo, he was very clever in many ways. One of the ways is that he chose only young black boys to go to Africa in this mission.
And on this mission, which is unusual also at that time.
It is unusual.
For Brazil to send black representatives.
You see, it is unusual.
Yeah.
So, and then he sent his one of his representatives, Ronaldo Batista, he sent to South, because he heard that there was a newsman in South, young newsman in South, very influential. So I was invited. So I was in this first mission of Brazil to Africa in Dakar, Senegal.
Okay.
This was a very good experience for myself. And then just 1 year after, by coincidences, I met the new ambassador of Ghana in Brasilia now, Mr. Kofi Baha Aidu.
Yeah, Kofi Baha Aidu. Yes, indeed. Yes.
And he invited me to try to organize a group of Rio Grande do Sul companies to go to Accra. And I did it. I made
that's what we...
Yes.
Yes.
No. This is after.
Oh, this is after.
This is after.
Sorry,
this is after. This is
jumping
after.
ahead.
Okay. This is after. So I get a group of Porto Alegre companies to Rio Grande do Sul, because it was more than Porto Alegre, São Leopoldo, Novo Hamburgo, and so Rio Grande do Sul companies to go on my. I will be representing them in Accra in this trade fair. So I went there and I met Mr. Edward Afriye, who was at the time the chairman of, not the chairman, managing director of Bank for House and Construction.
Ah, okay.
Mr. Afri, he considered himself a tabon.
Oh, so that adds another dimension
Yes,
to this
another
history.
dimension.
Okay, all right.
So Mr. Afri, and so I was introduced to him at the trade fair. We became friends, and there was a problem of bricks in Ghana at the time. I don't know today, but at the time there was a problem of bricks. The use was cement blocks. That was very expensive.
Oh,
the cement was imported.
Yes, indeed.
And then I presented a proposal for the Bank for House and Construction for machines to produce bricks out of clay.
That would be a whole different, because up to that point it's only cement that we
Yes,
okay.
So Bank for Housing bought with a credit line from Brazil 13 full complex of making bricks. And then, things in Ghana, or maybe Brazil as well, I don't know, I'm speaking now about Ghana, things don't move too fast.
No. There's a different tempo.
Yes. Different tempo.
Okay.
Yeah. So it took some time to finalize, because it was the first credit from Banco do Brasil to Ghana. There was no one before.
Oh, so there was no record.
No
before
records,
this.
no
I
nothing.
see.
We need to do everything. So it took time.
So it was pioneirismo.
Pioneirism.
Okay.
That's it. That's it. So it took some time to do this, and because of this, I started knowing a lot of people, going and coming.
Back and
I
forth.
became very good friend. I'll give just one, because it is an important name for me at least. But I know for the count. I became very close friend of Mr. De Graaf Johnson.
He later on becomes vice president.
Vice president.
He was my teacher in school.
He was a teacher.
Yes.
Yeah. So we became really
Very good friends.
So every time I was there, I went to the castle, and when I was going out, Kofi, keep coming.
Yes.
So even when he was overthrown and he needed to move to London, I met him in London more than one time. So and I have organized his official trip to Brazil. So it was during the Brazilian dictatorship yet.
Yes.
And so he came all the way from Ghana to São Paulo, Rio de Janeiro, and Porto Alegre, of course. Porto Alegre, where he eat churrasco. And there is we are speaking general things, and there is one very interesting episode on it that is personal. When he come back from Brazil to Ghana, my son, at this time he was 18 years old, he went in the presidential aircraft back with Dr. Johnson to Ghana and stayed at his family house for a period of 1 month or something.
That's a
so
very
we became really friends.
Yes, this is,
we
it puts a whole interpersonal dimension to the story.
To this thing. So you are speaking about my connection with Africa. So in Ghana there was a world of things. Then came the second credit line to Social Security Bank, who managing director was Mr. Benton Williams.
Oh yes.
Yes.
Very good friend of Vishnu.
Yes. So this line of credit is a conception of Benton, Vishnu, and myself. We together, once we met in Brazil at Vishnu's house, when I met Vishnu first, and then we met there and we started discussing
about the possibilities.
possibilities. And then it was a huge line of credit for trucks, ovens, sewing machine, fridges, a lot of things, $17 million.
That's big money.
It was a big money. So I was involved with all these things along a long period, connecting with people, very much with people. So then Africa again. So moving out of Ghana, I was in Mozambique, where for my pleasure, I met more than once Mr. Samora Machel, and I have discussed it with him the implementation of the revamp of the shoes manufacturing park that was completely destroyed,
abandoned, or
destroyed by the war. So there was a technical center for shoes in my state, and they gave all the support, the project
to revive
the Mozambique. And then what else? Ask me.
Well, that's okay. This is quite no, but I think this is very important. The narrative you've just given is very important, because one of the things we try to do with students here is to show that things don't just happen, that there's a historical context. Yeah. And so now you've given me the historical context. Okay. How did people in your state, people you knew, how did they respond? Suddenly you are going to Africa, you are bringing up. How did they respond? Did they say, what is going on?
What's that? In many ways. First, I was still a journalist for a long time. I stopped writing newspapers, let's say, in the middle of the 80s. So there was and I was working in the main newspaper in Porto Alegre at the time, was Correio do Povo. So every Sunday there was the main newspapers, they have folders, and then the main folder about reporters, important things, was about Africa. That I was the one.
You were the one who was in charge of that, yeah.
For example, I translated for this another newspaper a series of how we call it, reportages, articles, articles that I translated from Ebony magazine, Africa's Golden Past.
This is very important also. When I was growing up, to have ebony in Ghana, it was like having gold, because only a few copies came. And so this is one of the ways we were connected to Black USA. So to know that you were doing the same thing for Brazil, that's quite something. Yeah, I think nowadays people don't appreciate the historical significance of ebony at that time.
Yes, very important.
Yeah.
And then let me tell you something, how it happens with ebony. I was working in I passed through at least three newspapers working. I was working in one of them, I don't remember now what. And then came to visit Porto Alegre Ms. Ira Bell Thompson. She was the international editor for Ebony magazine.
This is very interesting because I remember I was a student in college, and she did 2 reports in July and September 1965 on does race amalgamation work in Brazil.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things remembering about. And then some years later, she did another reportage on Argentina, land of the vanishing black. So it's something that I had my students read. Okay.
So the one she did in Brazil is this amalgamation works in Brazil. She was very keen about this.
Yeah, it was.
Because Gilberto Freire and all these things, that there is no problem in Brazil.
Right.
So she came here down in Brazil to see
people,
with her own naked eyes
yes,
to
yes,
see.
Yes.
So when she was in Porto Alegre, I was introduced to her,
yes,
and I became her interpreter. So we went together for at least 1 week. And then when she moved out, she gone, she left with me some copies of Ebony magazine that I didn't know before.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
and then one of these magazine copies, there was this Africa's Golden Past by Professor Rio Grande.
Mhm.
And then I translated it in a series
In a series of
articles,
translations, yes.
in the newspaper I was working then.
Mhm.
So this is one way the city start to see Africa through my eyes.
Right, right.
And then you answering you, the repercussion on this chapter of the history was very good, very, very good. On the other side, it was always curious to ask me, what are you doing there?
Yeah. Why? Yeah.
Even in my family, my own family,
Uh-huh.
every time I say, I'm going to Africa, they say, well, to do what?
Fazer o quê?
Fazer o quê? So this is
I see. Wow.
what I can tell you.
This is fascinating. Okay.
But you see, I was able, because of this,
Uh-huh.
I was able to convince Dr. Carlos Santos was no
Yes.
more the chairman.
Yes.
It was another chairman of the house, Aldir Lopes. And then he was the following.
Mhm.
There was a problem of putting names. The one he wanted to be his chief of staff could not be for a while.
Mhm.
So I
You have to continue.
yeah, I have I have
okay.
to continue as
All right. Okay.
chief of staff of the next president.
Uh-huh.
So I organized then a mission to go to Ghana, and Vishnu was together.
Yes.
And
No, this is because it's extra. Because even here, sometimes when I teach about Brazil, trying to explain to students here how a state delegation from Rio Grande do Sul legislature will go to Ghana, you know, and then people will say, why? Is it because I said, I don't, you know, because it doesn't fit. They would have thought that maybe Bahia state delegation.
but you know, if students ask you, we all had talked, you and me, we all had talked about it in Bahia when we were together.
Yes, right, when we met, yeah.
So when the students ask you this kind of question, you ask them in opposition,
Right.
and then afterwards you give the answer. Why we had two governors, blacks,
I know.
in the European states?
And in Bahia.
In Bahia.
No.
Now it seems that they have a mayor or so. I don't.
Well, you know, for a very brief time, I don't know if you remember Edivaldo Brito. But he was appointed by the Brito.
So not elected.
So that doesn't count.
That doesn't go. Yes, it doesn't. You see, in my state, we had one governor that wasn't elected, but he was a really governor because he was the chairman of the legislative house, and
Yes.
then as such, when the governor
Was he
he
the
acts,
one? Yes,
so
indeed,
his
yes.
so his legal his position on there, and then the second one, Colares, he was elected, fully elected,
yes.
without
Mayor,
mayor,
federal,
deputy federal many times.
Yes.
So when your student ask about this, I saw at Southern University a film. The dean, that is my friend Donald Andrews, he wanted me to show a film from the American professor. He died recently. What is his name? For sure you will help me. He was in Brazil some years ago. He's a famous. He's dead now. He was a famous writer. He was in Brazil, and then he made a film about his trip to Brazil. The name will come.
Okay, all right.
Let's speak about the fact itself.
Lorenzo Tanner, Franklin Frazier,
No.
Leslie Rout.
No.
Okay, well, we'll see. It will come.
It will come. So he was showing me a film about Brazil. And then I was, after, I said, I didn't like very much it. I told him. Because first, when we want to do something about a country, you need to choose the persons who speak about the country.
Yes.
So you see, in this long film was only about Bahia, capoeira, and the person who gave the impression about Brazil was a famous rapper, you know rapper. I'm not speaking well. Rapper.
Yeah. Rapper. Yes.
So there was a lot, not me, excluding me, but.
But a lot of Brazilians were not pleased.
Yes.
Because it gives almost like a distorted image.
Yes. So what I'm trying to say is that when your students ask about Brazil, Brazil is a continent. So there are a lot of different experiences and things that are happening. I know that it's being recorded, and so it's something that many years after.
Yes.
So this is history. Yes, you have to be careful about that. So I will tell something that is very, very much challenging, but I will say, now is in big trouble in Brazil, Mr. Lula.
I know. Yeah.
Maybe he'll be arrested. So big trouble. So what is my personal impression about him? I don't consider him about what happens afterwards. The only thing that is relevant for me, on my concern, is that the first judge of the Supreme Court, black, he did it.
He spoke here, Joaquim Barbosa. Yes.
The first general in the army, he did that.
Right.
A real push on the question of affirmative action. He did that.
Yes.
So this is.
So those are, even if this is from this particular perspective, historical contribution. Yeah.
Maybe since Brazil, it is. I'm speaking again.
Yeah.
For history, even Brazil being the way it is, and probably they will never consider those events as important. They will only remember him by
these this.
But he did that.
After
I never voted on him.
Right.
Another record.
That's another right. After I saw him I went to Brasilia.
Yes.
And I went to Itamaraty. I went to Rio Grande.
Yes.
And I want to talk with the man who's the director there, who's the son of Gerardo Meire Mourão. Now there are some young Afro-Brazilian diplomats.
Yes.
I met one young man. Kofi, I was totally unprepared for this. Afro-Brazilian diplomat with Rasta hair. So I said to him, as soon as he understood.
He understood.
Yeah. And it was very interesting because I think his father had come originally from, I think, Guinea-Bissau, and he was born in some. But the idea, I'm thinking back to say 1970, 78, the first time I went to Itamaraty. If you can imagine a young black man.
Impossible.
Impossible. Yeah. Impossible. But I agree with you totally on these things about Lula, and also to bring the whole African issue back into Brazilian foreign policy. I think it's very important.
Very important.
Yes. Yeah.
No matter
what happens.
And
but the historical importance.
We cannot hide it.
Talking about which, that's why we're going to move towards one of I think the most interesting visits of Africans to Brazil. This was the visit of the Asantehene in 1978. And
Vishnu made it.
Yes, and I was part of it.
I was part of it.
Yes.
You were.
Okay. This Vishnu and the
Vishnu and the
Asantehene.
Asantehene, yes. I don't know if I should turn to the camera, this or no? Should turn?
Yeah, that was a really, because not only the historical, but even from a visual perspective, because you know when the Asantehene dresses, as we were going to the Planato Palace, yes. You cannot see me very well, but I'm back there. Okay. And then this is in the Planato with Geisel. So I have even been in the gabinetto of President Geisel. Yes, you see. Okay, what I wanted to shift us briefly to now is your reflections. The Africa Faces one, but over the last several years or so, you have been coming to the United States a number of times. You've had a chance to visit campuses, give lectures. And I wanted you to reflect a bit on what you consider to be important comparisons between USA and Brazil. Comparisons, similarities or differences in this whole matter of race relations and the place of people of African descent.
Well, in fact, I brought with me, I didn't know what I was about to do here.
Oh no, that's how I like it. It's open-ended. So,
I even concerning Southern University, I didn't know precisely.
What?
So I did two. I'm a journalist. It's easy for me to write. So I prepared two papers. One of them concerns to what you are asking me, the differences between Brazil and the United States. But I had focused in terms of education. And then I started speaking about the problems of Catholic Church in terms of education of the blacks in Brazil. And then I compare with the Protestant system in the United States with the wide use of the Bible as a spiritual support for the black community. The Bible was in the big house, and then it moves to the cabins, and to have the Bible, you at least need to read it or listen to, and this creates a whole perspective for the wanting to learn, the wanting to read, that we had not in Brazil, at all. Then I compare, for example, in this perspective, the abolition, or here is called the emancipation. The abolition in Brazil and the emancipation in the United States. Here in the United States, it was immediately after the end of the war. It was created the office of the Escritório dos Libertos, the Freedmen's Bureau.
Yes.
Freedmen's Bureau. That, for example, means the University of Howard.
Oh yes, for Victorious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then in Brazil, we had nothing.
Nothing like that.
You know, more than that. When I was at this high school, I was, you know, even my father being a modest public servant, I was in a paid high school.
High school, I see.
He was able to do that.
Private institution.
Yes. So it was a Catholic one. We were absolutely forbidden to read anything that was not with a stamp of imprimatur, meaning that it must be passed through the Catholic Church.
Have the stamp of approval of the Catholic Church. Yeah.
So, and Brazil was, until the first constitution, when Brazil became a republic.
It was an empire. Yeah.
It was an empire. Well, at this time, there was a separation between church and state. And in the United States, it happened with Thomas Jefferson at
From
the
yes.
first amendment.
Yeah.
So then you see that the things start to move differently.
The two separate directions, you know. Yeah.
While in the United States, Harvard was established something in 18 something. In Brazil, only 200 years after, we got the first university in Manaus, Amazon, the first one. We had some schools of law,
right,
medicine,
but not a university in that sense.
No,
yeah.
the first one is in Amazon State in 1909. 200 years after.
That's a big.
Harvard.
That's a very huge and important difference in terms of the future directions. Yes. What happens with people of black.
So I don't know if I gave to you because we have limited time. So I don't know if I gave to you the answer you was.
Oh no, that's the way I like when I have visited from Brazil. I like this precise how I conduct these things, and even in my class, like the class you're going to come to today. It's a seminar, so I don't give lectures. I ask questions and then I make them participate, you know. So the class today, for instance, they're quite familiar with, you know, the history up to the present. So I will ask questions which will make them ask questions of you. So, and I know that all the questions will be not difficult for you. I want to ask you about somebody, two people. Well, of course, one of them, of course, I know you know very well. I think was he your classmate? Was Alceu Colares when they law school at the same time?
Not classmate as such. He was 2 years advanced
ahead of you. I see.
But we met several times because in Brazil, I don't know here. In Brazil, we have one class and 10 minutes for vacation break of 10 minutes. And then during these breaks we met.
I see.
Along. I came in the university in 1959, and Alceu went in 1957.
Oh, okay. So you were in the year of Ghana's independence.
Oh yes, yes, it's true. So we were.
Yeah.
I am one of the few people who call him Alceu. I can't call him Colares.
I see. So when you say Alceu, so that's a special.
Because his name is Alceu Colares.
Yeah.
Not very much people do that. So concerning this person, what I may tell you is that we were classmates. We are not at the same class, but we are.
But right. So you were colleagues.
So
in the
we
school
were
of
colleagues
law
in the school of law at the same time.
I think, you know, I've been thinking back and I'm trying to remember the first Afro-Gaúcho person I met.
Afro-Gaúcho?
Yeah. I think it was, he died recently. His name was, I can't remember his name, but something, Feijó.
Feijó?
Yeah.
My friend.
Yes.
Good friend.
Yeah, I met him at an event.
Nilo Feijó.
Nilo Feijó.
Yeah.
White hair.
Yes.
Yeah.
My good
friend.
friend.
I met him at some event in Campinas many years ago. And so for a while we used to see Christmas card.
Yeah.
So when I saw on the website that he died, I was very sorry. Yeah.
Yes, Nilo, he was always engaged with black society. Have you heard about Marcílio Dias?
Oh yeah. And also the thing I was also going
because Marcílio Dias is my club.
Oh, I see.
Nearly at the end of the club. Was not me the one to close the door, but nearly in the end.
Toward the end of the existence of this. Yeah.
I was president.
So talking about that also, I saw a book also. No, I just online. What is it called? A book about blacks in Porto Alegre, Negro and Preto y Branco. It was a journalist who did this book of pictures.
Yes. Is a woman.
It's a woman. Right.
It's a woman. I have the book.
So I saw that online also, and I saw.
But you know, concerning Marcílio Dias, there is a very interesting part of it. Many parts. Because Marcílio Dias was a kind of the first generation of black boys who went to the university was there, like me and others of my friends.
Yes.
Engineers, doctors, medical doctors, all boys of my age.
Okay, right, who went to university.
At Marcelo Diaz.
Yes.
And because at this time, the clubs for blacks, they were basically for dance. They like Floresta Aurora.
Just party time.
The only thing that they were prepared is for balls. They do balls. But Marcelo Diaz was made for sports. And then it was able to attract a lot of young boys at the time, because of sports is something that attracts
young people in general.
So, and then I met there Fernando Henrique Cardoso, because he was doing his research on
slavery and restorations in the South.
Yes.
I see. Okay.
So,
when I think of Rio Grande do Sul, of course, because I sometimes, like you, I make these historical connections, I, think of João Cândido.
João Cândido,
yes. Okay, from Rio Grande do Sul, because that was a story which was really fascinating for me, the João Cândido. And one of my former graduate students has actually just written a book on the revolt of the Chibata.
When you want to help your students about this, go to my webpage. It is in English. I have in my webpage, I have a version of the Revolta da Chibata in English. So it is in Portuguese as well.
Okay.
Portuguese and English.
Okay.
My website, there is a lot of historic information that could help students.
I've been there because I even have printed pictures of Carlos Santos.
On my webpage.
See, every day I spend minimum of about 40 minutes to 1 hour on the web. The Brazilians thing.
Okay.
So, what about the present situation in Rio Grande do Sul? For instance, from the time you went to university, few of you, has there been
improvement?
Big improvement, so that there are many more Afros in universities, in the Federal, in the Católica, in the faculdades.
Well, I have two examples, and one is bad. The other is good.
It's good.
The good one, start by the good. Is myself. It's myself. When I graduate, it was in 1965, meaning that today, this year, 50 years.
50th anniversary.
50th anniversary. We did a party of 50th anniversary. I was the only one.
Wow.
Among 113. Among
130, and you were the only one. Yes.
113. I was the only one in the law school of Federal University of Rio Grande do Sul. I was the only one. Now, if you go there, you see many.
So on that level, there's been.
This is the good. This is the good side.
Okay.
The bad side, but it was some 3 years ago or something like that. One of my good friends, he is white. He got his daughter graduating in medicine. So medicine at the Federal University of Rio Grande do Sul. So he invited me naturally.
And you went
for the
ceremony. Yes.
There was no one. What? No one. Zero Negro. 4 years ago.
4 years ago, there was not a
single. Zero. Of course, maybe there will be Brazilians that you know.
But not visible.
No, visible like myself. Like you know, there was something very important in my graduation. I was the most applauded. I was the only one.
But not to have a single.
No, not one single. Zero. So this is the sad example.
That's.
And you know,
Wow.
and you know, things are changing.
Mm-hmm.
For example, one of the hard schools to reach in the Federal University. Of course, medicine is the first one.
Yes.
Then comes law.
And then engineering.
And now international affairs.
Oh.
And
so that's interesting also.
Yes, and one of my daughters.
Yeah, you told me she's
Yes,
interested. Eventually wants to go
She's
to
in
Rio
the
Grande.
first year. She's in the first year. So
Wow.
she's moving. I told her, when you will be ambassador in Ghana, I told her, when you will be ambassador in Ghana, I will be only memory. And she said, don't say that, Daddy, Granddaddy, I will cry.
Wow, no, but that's that's amazing. That is, but so what accounts for this? Why?
No. But you choose the bad example.
Yes.
No, let's stay in the
good one.
The good one.
Okay.
No, if you go to the campus,
the
various campus of the University of Rio Grande do Sul,
you will see.
you'll see
many more. Okay.
many more.
Okay.
Where
the other connection.
But
sorry.
Just to give you, because there are connections in everything, and there is a connection between money and education.
Of course.
So, for you to get a seat at the medicine school at the Federal University of Rio Grande do Sul, you need to be rich.
Yes.
Because you need to pay high fee preparation courses
before you can even
because the vestibular is very
it's crazy. Yes.
Difficult. So who are the ones? I have one of the how you say namoradas.
It's an interest, like boyfriend.
Girlfriend. One of the girlfriends of one of my grandsons. Her father sold one car to support the preparation course for medicine. And she couldn't get, and we'll do it again this year. It's very difficult, medicine.
Wow.
So can you imagine the difficulty for our people going to the medicine school? Unless if there are affirmative action.
Exactly.
Unless if there are affirmative
but
action.
Otherwise
impossible.
Rules them out.
Impossible. And then people like Anthony Appiah. You know Anthony Appiah? He's from Ashanti.
Of course I know. I mean, I don't know him well, but I know, we met once.
He went to Brazil to say that he is against the quotas.
Listen,
he don't know nothing about.
You know what the students here, don't even go there. Let's see, he's a very complex person, as you know. You know who his father was? Joe Appiah.
Joe Appiah he was ambassador or?
No, he was first he was Kwame Nkrumah's friend, then he became an opposition member, and then when a Champon regime first came, like when Kwame Nkrumah died, he was the one who went to Guinea to bring him back. But his sister was married to
to one of the
kings.
Kings.
And then from his mother's side, his mother was the daughter of Sir Stafford Crisp, who had been Chancellor of Exchequer in the Labour government after the war, and also former ambassador to Russia. And also the family owned a very big company called Enosol. So he's a very privileged person. So when he talks, he doesn't sometimes pay sufficient attention to the fact that not all of us can call on double privilege like that. Well, I was going to ask you something else. How many African countries have you been in so far?
Oh, many. starting from the top, Dakar, Guinea, Bissau, and then Liberia, and then Sierra Leone, and then Ivory Coast, and then Ghana, and then Nigeria, and then Cameroon, and then going then Zimbabwe, Zambia, Tanzania, and then going down, more down, South Africa.
Wow.
And South Africa have a very interesting story.
I have a problem with South Africa. Did I tell you my problem with South Africa?
No, tell me.
This is 4 years ago. I was invited to go to a conference in South Africa. And I was going to be one of the speakers because it's on race relations in Brazil and Brazil's relations with Africa. Now I travel with US passport. So if you have US passport, you don't need to get a visa. When you get there,
yes.
So I get there and I join the line in the immigration, and there's a black lady, and she said, "You don't have any space in your passport." And I said, I thought there were 4 or 5 pages back. She said, "Don't try to be smart with me." Oh, she's very and I said, she said, the pages you have, they don't have visa written on top. So, there's that critical moment when you are in any immigration, you say, "Come with me." So I was taken upstairs, and for 5 hours I was in immigration. And guess what? She said, "You have 2 choices. You can go back to New York, or you can go to Botswana to the American embassy and get a new passport." This is Saturday afternoon, right? I have never been to Botswana. So I said, "I prefer to go back to New York." And she said, "I have to tell you, if we don't get a flight for you on the next plane, you are here illegally and you have to be detained." So thank God I got on the next plane. Of course, when I got back to New York, all I had was my briefcase. And so you have to explain this. So I have all the papelada. Yes. Saying, denied entry to South Africa.
Wow.
So that's my experience. But when I tell people the story, they assume that it was some Africans. Later say, this is a lady who could be from West Africa. So right now, even if I got an invitation from South Africa, I will not go.
My experience in South Africa is quite different. In early times, to go to Mozambique, we need to fly from Rio by Varig, from Rio to Johannesburg. And then from Johannesburg to Maputo. Then if you go down in South Africa and go to a hotel in Johannesburg, they will stamp your passport. It's natural. They will stamp your passport. But then after you got this stamp in your passport,
you couldn't go
troubles in Ghana.
Oh no!
Troubles in Ghana. So what I did for more than 2 or 3 times, I don't remember anymore, but many times, there is an hotel inside of the airport. I stayed there in the hotel for 3 days, 2 days.
So you didn't enter? I didn't enter South Africa. Yes. South Africa.
So recently, 2 or 3 years ago, 2 years ago, I went to Johannesburg as a tourist.
Yes.
No problem. No problem. They stamp it.
Now they can stamp it.
They can stamp it now.
Okay. So I'm thinking of Ghana ambassador. So first, you are texting. I don't know where your texting is. I've asked. Nobody seems to know. He was in Europe for some time, but I don't know where he is now.
I would like to know as well.
Yeah. And then of course you knew Yao Edu also.
Well, good friends. There was many ambassadors, I believe.
Yes.
Along this time.
Yes.
But I became good friend of. I became good friend of Vishnu. Cell phones.
You see?
You see? Well,
Vishnu.
Beginning,
okay.
of course, Yao
Texan,
Yao Turks. And we became friends. there was something that was very good for me on this concern. Is that almost the 3 ambassadors I met?
Yes.
They were 3.
Yes.
They all were at my age.
So
it was easy.
Yeah, it was easy. Right.
To
relate, to
relate.
interconnect with them. Yes.
So all of the 3, Vishnu, it was just 2 or 3 years elder than myself.
Yes.
So all of us, all ambassadors, all the Ghanaian ambassadors, I became friends
with.
I became friends, and moreover because we were at the same age, something it was very easy. So Turkson, Yao, Adu. No, it was not Yao. It was Kofi Baha.
Kofi Edu.
Kofi Edu, and then Vishnu. Vishnu, we are as well very good friends. He came to Porto Alegre many times.
Oh, he liked Porto Alegre.
Yeah, he came to many times.
Vishnu was special.
Yes.
He was
Vishnu was special.
And I'm glad that yesterday you were able to spend time with Victor.
Yes? Yeah. Oh, yes, I enjoyed very much your brother.
Oh, good.
Very good. And I got, Howard was something that I was expecting to visit for a long time.
Right.
Because I read so much
about the history and the importance of
the importance of mainly through Du Bois or Dubois, many things. So I would like very much to know, to get the opportunity to know something about Howard. And yesterday I was there. It was very good experience.
Let's see. We have about 5 minutes left. So, okay, Kofi, now, when last were you in Ghana? When was the last time you were in Ghana?
Let me tell you something that you are hiding, because you are a gentleman.
Okay, I'm listening.
Kofi means Baboni. Don't translate. Do you know what it means?
Oh, yeah.
But don't translate.
No, we will not translate.
So ask me again.
So, but when was the last time you visited? You were in Ghana?
2 years ago.
Oh,
2 years ago.
okay.
I was there. I was involved with my son in a negotiation about selling of buses to a company in Ghana.
In Ghana,
and it was sold.
Oh, so it was successful. Yeah.
It was my son who was involved on it. So I went more with him. So I did contacts, old contacts, few old contacts, but I did contacts there.
Unfortunately,
yes, unfortunately, time passes.
Many people have gone, or people.
Time passes.
And did you ever visit? You've been in Cape Coast. You've been in
Ghana. I probably know more than you. Have you been in Bogatanga?
Oh, you know the last time I was in Bogatanga?
Yes.
1960.
I know Ghana very well.
Yeah.
You choose this. I have been in Tamale many times, because there was a project from Bank for Housing to exploit limestones in deposits that the Russians started.
And then it was abandoned.
It was abandoned.
Yeah.
And then we went there to see what we could do. But it was so expensive to rehabilitate that. But I have been several times in Tamale. And of course, Bogatanga I was, I guess, once. But Tamale many times. I have been many times. And I choose any part of Ghana I have been because.
Okay, today later you're going to meet a young woman from our department here who is just finishing one stage of her PhD oral examination, and she's an African American or Jamaican descent, but her husband is from Ghana. Her husband is from the north.
From north of Ghana.
Yeah. So you get to meet.
Well, the actual president Mahama.
John Mahama.
He's from north.
But you know what is interesting?
I read his book.
All the last 3 presidents of Ghana, they are called John.
Oh yes.
John Rawlings, John Kufuor, and then John Mahama, and John Mills, Atta Mills.
Atta Mills, yes.
Was also called John. So to be president of Ghana.
Republic of John.
If you're not called John, you cannot
you are not
enter the
qualified.
contest. Yeah. Well, Kofi, this is really, I want to tell you, this is a really special occasion for me to be able, for us to have this conversation, because sometimes when you're having conversations, with another person about another country, and there is not enough, historical or common, it becomes too much like a question and answer. But I think here we've been able to have this conversation, and I just want to thank you very much for this opportunity. And maybe we have to give you the name John also. But thanks a lot and I thought these pictures will just, let me see, remind you of another, but this was a long time ago. This visit was 1978.
Yeah.
But when I saw this, and then I said, okay, to return this to you. Yeah. Okay. So what we have now, thank you very much. Thank you.
Yes, but you are the last to speak, or I am the last?
Oh, you are going to be the last to speak,
okay.
Because I'm at home. You are the visitor.
Okay.
Okay. So say some final words to us.
Yes, the final words that I would like to say is, I said in the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
I am very much proud to be at Brown University.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the top universities in the country, and an university was able to open an important space for the Africa diaspora and Africa itself. And I am extremely honored to meet you again. We know each other for many
years until we met in
Bahia.
Yeah.
So right. I'm very happy to see you again, this time here in the United States. And I hope to see you again in Brazil as well. I hope to meet you another time in another in another place.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Akwaba. Okay.